Hi guys, welcome back, and our journey into table lookups continues today with the introduction of the index command, which is a kind of a neat command that returns the value of the intersection of a row and a column. So you'll find sort of a two-dimensional chart when we use the index command. I'll give you a basic demonstration of it, then I'll show you a practical application, then I'll show you an implementation of an index and match command. And we'll finish up by revisiting the bicycle shop problem we had and show you how you redo it with the index command. All that and more coming up next. All right, let's start off by first understanding the mechanics of how the index command works. So let me pop over to the lookup table. So what you'll usually find is some information in a row and column setup. And remember, rows go this way and columns go this way. So this number here, 1, is at row 1, column 1. Now those two numbers are important because that's how you're going to pull things out of a chart. So for instance, what if we wanted this 42? Well, that's at row 3, column 2. So you would need to reference it that way. And there can be things like costs of items in a chart, all kinds of information, which we'll show you in a few seconds in a practical example. But now let's take a look at a couple of scenarios. So the way you use an index chart is you basically say the word index, bracket, and then the table that you're going to use, and we called our table. And in this one, I want to pull out the value at 1, 1. And you already saw me do that. That value is 1, and there it is right there as proof again. This next one is the value at 3, 4. That's 22. And again, we'll look here. 3 would be the third row, and 4 would be the fourth column, which would bring us at 22. 2, 1, okay, that's row 2, column 1. All right, that's 43. And the last one, 2, 5. Is there such a thing? 2, second row, fifth column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is nothing there, and that's why you got the error. So that's the mechanics of how you use the index. Now let's take a look at a practical application. As usual, all these demonstrations are in your resources for today's lecture. The first one was called Index 1. This one is Index 2. Now, before I get into the actual details of this particular application, I'm going to do a bit of doodling on your screen to show you a rough idea of how a practical application would be implemented. Okay, so here's the scenario. I have this fictitious hardware store, and I'm going to keep track of, in a table, parts. Okay? And there's going to be small parts, medium, and large. And there are going to be part numbers, 001, 002, all the way to 9009. Okay? So what a user is going to do is they're going to ask for a part number. They may ask for part number 2002, and they may want the large. Okay, which will put us in this particular thing. And then that may be that part costs $7. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to pull out from this table. Now, the way an index command works is you can't basically tell the computer, hey, look for this part and put yourself here, and look for this word L for large and put yourself here. You have to somehow convert this 202 to just row 2, and you have to convert this large to just row, or not row, but column 3. So when you do these kind of index problems, you need actually 2 extra tables. You need a table to represent the rows. So you're going to have a table with all the part numbers all the way to 9009. Beside the 1, 001, you're going to say that that's in row 1. This one you're going to say it's in row 9. Also another table, smaller table, with the words small, medium, and large. And again, small, you'll say that that's in row 1, or column 1, sorry. Medium will be column 2, and large will be column 3. So when a user, in this case you can see right here, asks for part 202, you're going to go to this table first, figure out that part 202 is a 2, and we're going to do that with a VLOOKUP. Then when you ask for the small, you're going to go to this table, do a VLOOKUP, and figure out that small is column 1. So finally we'll have row 2, column 1, it'll put us there, and it will have a price of, let's say, $5. So it's a multi-step process when you use the index command, but that's how you would implement it. Later on, I will show you another technique that doesn't need all these extra little bits and pieces, but for now, this is what we know because of their background knowledge of VLOOKUP. Now it's time for the specifics for this particular problem. So let's go into the lookups. And as you saw me doodle, here it is now in a more structured format. Here is our beautiful two-dimensional table that we're going to use the index command on. I've called it a price table. These things there are just to make them look pretty. They're not part of the table. The table is just the section in blue. Okay. Here are our two little helper tables that we're going to use VLOOKUPs on. There is the ones with part numbers, and again, these titles we don't really use. It's just this stuff in here that's part of the actual table. Okay, so we've got two helper tables that we're going to use VLOOKUPs on. Once we get our required numbers, we're going to jump over here and pull out numbers from our master table with the index command. Let's go back to our main screen now. All right, so a user types in part 3003 and wants the large, and we press enter. Messed up. That's not good. Is that true for everything? Let's try 4004, and I want the small. Well, that one gave me an answer, but is that the right answer? Let's go over here for a sec. So part number 404 small. 404 small should be 209, and I got 786. What's our problem? Well, our problem involves the lookups, okay? And if you remember from a previous lecture, these also have to be in an sorted order, usually ascending. Those ones are okay. Believe it or not, these are not in the right order. Okay, small, medium, large, yeah, it'd be nice to just say it that way, but they have to be alphabetically in the right order. So that's the error. So let's highlight all this stuff, and sorting is in the data ribbon, and we'll press this. And now large is actually the first one. Now the numbers are still right. Large is the third column, medium is still the second, and small is the one. But that change now will help us. So when we go back here now, and we're in part 404 small 209, is that right? Part 404 small 209, yes. Okay, so I don't know, I can't remember that one we got an error with. I think it was 303, and I typed in large. And now we get an answer, 823. Let's check that out. 303, large, 823, yes. Okay. Now, if you remember back from the bicycle solution we did in our previous lecture, that was important to know too when we did the H lookup. The things have to be in order or it won't work properly. You'll probably get an answer most of the time, but it won't be the right one. And sometimes you'll even get that error message, which would be a good help to make you spot the error. Okay, so there is our simple application which implements this index table. We can type in part numbers, it tells us the price, we can then change and say how many we want, and it'll work out our final bill for us. Kind of a neat application. Now there's another technique you can use before we finish up this lecture today called the match command, and I'm going to show you how to implement that too. Okay, so what the match command does is it kind of eliminates a little bit the helper tables, okay, where we had to actually physically write down 1, 2, 3, etc., and physically have to write down the columns here. What the match command does is say, just give me the list, and I'll, in my head, work out this for you, okay? So if you pick 404, I know that's the fourth row. These ones do not have to be put in alphabetical order, like we had to in the last one. Just write them down in the way you see them in your chart, and I will look through these, and if you tell me large, I'll know it's the third one. Okay, isn't that kind of cool? So what I've done is I've saved these and called them new part number, and I've named this region new size. So it's a slightly slimmed down version of it. Now let's show you how the actual command works. Okay, so I'll click on the 345, the second version of it, and here it is up here, index, price table. So it starts off pretty well the same. Then instead of the VLOOKUPs, those two VLOOKUPs have been replaced by the match D9, comma, new part number, 0. 0 means look for an exact match. And then The second one, which is the column, we type in match D10, new size, comma 0. And from those, you will pull out the indexes, the row numbers and the column numbers. Just to review, remember, this is how we did the VLOOKUP one from before. We had the price table. We had to send it a number. We did a VLOOKUP on the part numbers, okay? Comma 2, which means go over to the second column. So there's the difference between the two. All right, so there's the match technique and the VLOOKUP technique. About the same commands. The only thing is it saves you a little bit of time. All right, do you want a little challenge? Remember that question we've worked on in several of the lectures, the breaking away bicycle shop, and I've actually called it bicycle shop problem. Could you modify that to implement the index command instead of what we did, sort of a mishmash of VLOOKUPs and things like that? I'm going to give you a little chance to do that right now. I want you to stop the video, give it a try, and then we'll come back and take up the solution. So did you figure it out? Did you even get, confident and maybe even throw in the match command? Let's take a look at how I tackled this question. So first of all, in the previous version of this bicycle shop, I had two little worksheets here. I've combined it all now and called it the lookup worksheet. So I've moved this one from another worksheet onto here. This one really isn't going to change. We're still going to use VLOOKUPs on this. When a person types in an item number, we're going to come at them with the name of it, the weight, and the price. It's this part in here with the shipping and handling that implements this index command. So here's our table again. So this part in here now, not this part. We're not going to make that part of the table anymore. So just this part in here becomes our shipping table that we implement our index from. And we need obviously rows and column information. So now we need two helper tables, okay? So here are our helper tables for the weight. So if a person types in the first one, that's going to be row 1 all the way down to 75, which is row 16. We also are going to have a helper table for Federal Express, UPS, and Priority Mail. Now remember, these have to be in sorted order because we're using VLOOKUP. So FedEx alphabetically should be the first one, and it's column 1. Priority Mail, even though it's the third one here, should be the second one in this helper table. We still put down that if you do find Priority Mail, it's column 3, and then UPS is column 2. Okay, so those are our helper tables that we use to pull out the rows and columns that we get into this chart from. So the invoice then, the only other change is right here in shipping and handling. We're going to use that if stuff so that if F6, okay, if there's nothing in F6 right here where it says priority mail, if there's nothing there, then we don't do it. If there is something there, we do it. Now remember, we used to have a number here. We don't do that calculation anymore. It's not necessary. All that's necessary is for us to type in UPS, Federal Express, or this one, priority mail. So coming back to the formula, we're going to use that index command. We're going to have as our master table the shipping one. Remember, that's this thing in here, just this part, not the numbers over there. Okay, and from there, in the shipping, we're going to do two lookups. We're going to look up the weights, okay, and that'll give us our row number, and then we're going to look up the carrier, and that'll give us our column number. And from those, we should get the answer. So if I type in a UPS, okay, it modifies the shipping handling price down below. Okay, so there you see a nice implementation. We could also, if you wanted to, just make a table of these numbers and call it something. Just make a table of these numbers, and I would put them in the order that you see them up here: Federal Express, UPS, Priority Mail, and you could use the match command. It would almost have the same format as here, except you would use the match words. Okay, so nice little review and extension of the index command. And now I'm going to give you a nice big challenge in our last lecture of this section.